There are things that Royal Caribbean does that are definitely head scratchers. One of them, to this day, I still don't understand, is why Royal Caribbean in some ports has absolutely terrible hours. I'm talking about the ports of call in which you don't have a full day there. You have like a half a day. But the hours they choose, not only are they weird, but it really makes it so it's almost impossible to do anything in port. There are three ports that I'm aware of where this is consistently an issue: St. Thomas, San Juan, Puerto Rico, and Costa Maya. In each of these cases, there's a better than average chance that if you're on a Royal Caribbean cruise that visits one of these ports, you're going to end up with only a couple of hours. I was recently on Star of the Seas, and this is why we wanted to talk about this, because we were going to Costa Maya. Great. I love Costa Maya because, number one, I'm a big fan of going to Mexico in general. I mean, food alone is a good reason to go there. But number two, I love going to Maya Chan. Maya Chan is a independent shore excursion that you can go to, and I've been going there for years and years and years. And it's one of my favorite things to do over there. The problem, however, is that we were only in port from 7:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. and it's just not enough time. When we did Star of the Seas over Thanksgiving, we had this exact same scenario, and I said, "We're going, we're gonna have fun no matter what," and we did have a good time. Don't get me wrong. The problem is, realistically, you don't get there with enough time. I mean, we got off the ship exactly when it was cleared, but we really didn't even get to like Maya Chan because of the walk through the port, the check-in, getting a taxi and going over there. It was like 9 o'clock in the morning by the time we actually arrived. And then we had to turn around and leave because we'd be back on the ship by 1:30. So I think we left around noon or something, leaving like just like 3 or 4 hours. That's really not a lot of time, and certainly not enough time to quote unquote make it worthwhile. And this has occurred many times. I mean, St. Thomas, I really do not recall the last time I was in St. Thomas for more than like 4 or 5 hours. Every time you're either there very early in the morning, like 7:30 a.m. to 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, or you are coming there in the afternoon, something, where you come in very late. Puerto Rico is very similar, where you come in early in the morning, early in the afternoon. The evening stops, like I did one on Oasis of the Seas this past fall, it wasn't terrible because we got in at like 2 o'clock and we weren't leaving until, I forget, like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So the advantage was that a lot of the people that had come for the day had already kind of finished what they were doing. And also we could stay for dinner, which usually you don't get to do. You don't get to enjoy sunsets and nighttime viewing in these ports. But the problem in Puerto Rico is similar to the problem you have with the early morning stops, is that once you get past 5 o'clock, all the tourist places shut down. Like even on Fortaleza Street, the shops after like 5, it was closed. Now the restaurants were open, right? But it was pretty much a ghost town after that. And when you come in the morning, the other problem compounding the issue when you do an early morning visit like 7:30 a.m., nothing's open till 9 o'clock at the very earliest. It doesn't matter what time the cruise ships come in. There are no shops open at 7:30 in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning. They'll open at 9. If you walk through the port of Costa Maya, or if you go to Charlotte Amalie in St. Thomas at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're going to be enjoying a very nice leisurely stroll with a lot of closed places. I mean, the Caribbean in general, you don't really see a lot of shops opening until maybe 10 o'clock in the morning. And I really don't know why Royal Caribbean does this. I mean, I think part of it, well, obviously it's cost. Okay, let's be clear on this. I am sure, without a shadow of a doubt, they're doing this to save money. I don't understand it. I mean, in Costa Maya, they literally own the port. Royal Caribbean bought the port of Costa Maya recently in order to build the Perfect Day Mexico, which will be forthcoming. So I get they still have to, one hand pays the other hand and that kind of thing. But like, I still really, truly do not understand why they do that. Part of it, I think, is timing. They want to make sure they can get to the next port. Although, in the case of Star of the Seas, we're going between Cozumel, Roatan, and Costa Maya. In fact, it was kind of funny because we went from Cozumel, which is the northernmost port, we sailed past Costa Maya down to Roatan, spent a full day over there, and then came back to Costa Maya for the last stop. It seemed very roundaboutish. But like, it's got to be a cost issue. I'm sure that every minute you spend in port costs a cruise line money, and it's probably cheaper to come in for just a couple hours rather than the full day. It also could be logistical issues, like I said, getting to the next port, fuel costs. I don't know. And then there's always the factor of, if the ship is in port, a lot of the shops, the casino cannot be open because of the local regulations, and so that costs them money. Now, I would argue if that was the case, I mean, you could probably flip around the ports every now and then, like make Cozumel the short day, Roatan the short day. I don't know. It is very frustrating as a cruiser to go to these places and not be able to enjoy the full day. It's like a waste. And I feel like part of it also is that Royal Caribbean wants people to say, oh, this itinerary you're booking, it has 3 stops, 4 stops. You know what I mean? Like they want to play up that factor because I think a cruise with more stops is more appealing from a marketing standpoint and a sales standpoint than a cruise with an extra sea day on it. And that may be part of the equation. I'm not sure. But it is very frustrating that they do that because I feel like it really takes away from it. Remember, one of the top two reasons people book a Royal Caribbean cruise, according to Royal Caribbean, there are two reasons. I'm not sure which one is one or two, but the top two reasons: food and destinations. So the food you can eat on board the ship and the places your cruise ship goes. Destinations are a huge, huge aspect to why people book a cruise. And so when we were in Costa Maya, it just felt like a waste. I mean, I hated it because if I go on principle and go and do something, it seems like, it's just not enough time to really enjoy it if we stay on the ship, that I have FOMO. What's worse is I think every single time we've ever been to Costa Maya and we've had these terrible hours, this has happened many times, Royal Caribbean offers a Mayan ruins excursion. And every single time the ship is late to leave because we're waiting for that tour to get back because there is not enough time to do it. And in St. Thomas, it also hurts because I love going to St. John. And when you only have 4 or 5 hours to enjoy there, it really takes away from it. I mean, I would say, in all these cases, Puerto Rico, St. Thomas, and Costa Maya, the distance to the next port is usually pretty nominal. Puerto Rico, you're either going to Labadee next or maybe St. Thomas or St. Martin, right? St. Thomas, you're probably going to Puerto Rico or one of those other places. And in Costa Maya, it's Cozumel or Roatan or going back home. But I would venture to say, and I'm not an expert on this, I don't have the full information, but I'm venturing to say that if they spend an extra 3 to 4 hours in port in these places, they would still be able to make all their scheduled port visits on time. It's just very frustrating they still continue to do this, and it's one of the things I don't like about Royal Caribbean. And it seems like Royal Caribbean is the only one that does this, or at least does it consistently in these ports, because every single time we leave Costa Maya, there are other non-Royal Caribbean ships still there. In fact, sometimes there is a small Royal Caribbean ship, like a Radiance of the Seas, that came out of Tampa, and they're spending the whole day over there, but we're not. I don't know. It's bizarre, and I'm not sure we'll ever get an answer to it. But people often ask me, Matt, is there something you don't like about Royal Caribbean? And when this came up on Star of the Seas, I was like, okay, this is the thing that I really don't understand why they do it, and I don't like it at all. Time for listener emails. It's the part of the episode where I answer emails you've sent me. First emails from Connor Norrish. Hi, Matt. Hope you and your family are well. Question coming over from the UK. If I have a Royal Caribbean cruise booked for the two of us, and one of us can't make it, but they're not the lead passenger, when I show up, as is within 90 days, will I be charged the solo price, or will I board as normal? You'll board as normal. Royal Caribbean doesn't care if you no-show, regardless if you're the lead or not. The bottom line is you're not getting your money back. You will get the money back, though, for the port fees and taxes for the no-show person. But no, they won't be like, oh, now there's only one of you? Okay, we're going to charge you a different rate. That's not a thing, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Our next email is from Felix. Hi, Matt. First and foremost, let me apologize for that taxi driver in Puerto Rico. It is completely illegal what he did regarding your fare. They can't charge per person. Yes, they have a $2 per bag fee. Haven't taken a taxi in San Juan in a while now, so I don't know if that has changed. I didn't know you hadn't cruised out of San Juan. The Pan American terminal in San Juan has always been meh. It got totally 100% bad after Hurricane Maria. Started to fix it, so a section is closed for disembarkation, which makes it even worse. It is always open at 10:30 every time I've cruised from there. Last time was in November of 2024, and was lucky to leave on a Rhapsody from the irregular terminal in Old San Juan. Regarding the airport problem, you hit a perfect storm. The World Baseball Classic was going on. There was a PGA Tour tournament that was ending on Sunday. I was staying in San Juan, and it was insanely full of college spring breakers. They seemed to leave that Sunday as well. My son was here for the games, was leaving on Tuesday, and started getting alerts Sunday to be at the airport at least 3 hours early due to TSA personnel issues. The airport is under private management, and 30% is closed, undergoing a huge remodel that should be completed soon. Sorry you had such a hard time embarking and disembarking. Well, Felix, you don't have to apologize. Thank you for the email. It's not your fault. And I have cruised out of Puerto Rico a lot of times, so this is not my first time by any means. But it was very, unfortunately, disheartening. If you're not sure what we're talking about, I recently did a YouTube video talking about why I won't cruise out of Puerto Rico forever, or at least for a really long time, because unfortunately, it was a very frustrating experience, both on embarkation and disembarkation. Our next email is from Kayla. Hi, Matt. Just wanted to send you a thank you email. My family and I reached Diamond status this January. We're so excited. We have 4 kids, 10 and under, who are stoked to be able to get all the virgin pina coladas they want now, Well, at least 4 of them. And we recently learned that Johnny Rocket shakes count as your diamond drink, so my son is planning on having 4 shakes a day on our upcoming Harmony of the Sea sailing. As part of riding the high from finally hitting diamond, I was watching one of your YouTube videos about additional perks to Crown and Anchor Society, and in that video I learned that MGM status matches. We had a trip planned to Vegas in February, and because I learned about this matching, we were able to save about $600 on our hotel room, and we were able to get free parking for the entire trip. It was a huge savings, so thank you very much. Then, while in Vegas, I learned that MGM status is matched by Marriott, so I was able to status match with them, and now we'll be able to get discounted bookings at Marriott properties. So basically, you save us money for a lot of future trips. Thank you very much. Well, that was awesome, Kayla. Thank you. This is like amazing. Like when you can start stacking those benefits or the loyalty perks and make it work, that's even better. So there you go, folks. If you're looking for a Marriott status and you have a decent Royal Caribbean status, first status match to MGM, and then status match from MGM over to Marriott, and bam, you've got a little hack right there, which I love. Next email is from Elizabeth Markovitz. Hey Matt, I was wondering if you can answer a question that I can't seem to find the answer to. I'm Diamond Plus on Royal Caribbean and I've only been on a handful of celebrity cruises, so it makes sense that when I go on my next celebrity cruise, to send the points to Royal. I am a solo traveler, so I'll be getting a solo cabin. If I get a concierge cabin and am solo, do I get more points when I send them to the celebrity to Royal through the points choice program? So that's a good question, because on the one hand, if you're solo, you get an extra point, and if you do concierge class, you get an extra point. I think you have to refer to the matching map. They have a little diagram of how that all works. But I guess your question is, if you're solo in a concierge cabin, do you get 3 points like you would if you were in a suite on Royal Caribbean solo? Would you get 3 points per night? That I'm not sure about. That's the only question I'm not 100% sure on, Elizabeth, because this is a brand new program, and a lot of this is definitely in the discovery phase. Like, we're trying to all figure out what exactly it looks like and what sort of benefits and how the program will all work and all that. And there are definitely some weird little hiccups, or at least maybe scenarios people haven't thought about yet. So I'm not 1,000% sure, Elizabeth, yet on that one. So I have to apologize and say I don't know the answer definitively to it, but I do know you'll get double points for sure for staying in a concierge room. Next, we have an email from Sam Galloway. Hi, Matt. My wife and I, with our 2 boys, ages 9 and 12, enjoy having separate bedrooms on a cruise. The connecting balcony hack is great, but lacks suite benefits. We love the 2-bedroom Aqua Theater suites on Oasis class and 2-bedroom Grand Suite on other ship classes. I don't see either on Icon. What would you recommend for family of 4 wanting a suite and separate sleeping spaces? Star class on Icon looks a little too spicy, pricing-wise, but could make Sky class work. Sam, thanks for the email. Really, your only option is the 2-bedroom Grand Suite, if that exists. All right, but you already said that. No, that's the real problem. We went through this exercise with Icon. Initially, when we did a suite, we did Star Class on there to, test it out in the name of research. We booked the Icon Loft Suite. The Icon Loft Suite has a downstairs couch which opens up to a bed, and then of course the upstairs bedroom, and there are 2 separate bathrooms. The separate bathrooms are great, but there's not a lot of privacy with your kids sleeping downstairs on a couch and you sleeping upstairs with basically a curtain as your only form of privacy. Certainly doesn't block any noise. So there really isn't a good option. They don't have those, like the Oasis class ships definitely have a better family suite setup option than the Icon class do. Royal Caribbean was really big on promoting the fact the Icon class ships are really good for 5, families of 5 rather, but those are really meant around, like, I think young families of 5, like, if you have like the Surfside Family Suite, great example of this. This would be a great option, except your boys are already too old for it to certainly share that little sleeping area. But if there are other options. A lot of those rooms for 5 really, I think, lean towards younger families as opposed to where you're at and where I'm at with that. So unfortunately, your best bet is still to book separate rooms. Now, I would argue we could do one other thing, Sam. Here's another idea for you. So this would only work in some like a Infinite Grand Suite. This doesn't work with the suites that are over on deck 17 and 18. But what you could do is book an Infinite Grand Suite, which is a Sky class cabin, and then book across the hall an inside room or whatever is across the hall. Maybe it's Central Park balcony, I'm not sure. But you could book one of those rooms for your kids, which will be a lot cheaper. You get the suite benefits. They don't, but I don't think your kids care. And that might satisfy your needs. That's another option. Remember, even though they're minors, you can book kids, minors, in a room by themselves if their parents are in a room that's either connecting, adjacent, or across the hall from it. So there you go, Sam. And our last email today is coming to us from Pat and Sherry McKeever. First time going on a Royal Caribbean blog group cruise in April of 2027. Can you please provide some details? We've booked with MEI Travel, Lindy, she's great, but would like to know if the group is planning on staying at a hotel together and what day we're planning to arrive. Also, we usually book dining and excursions ahead of time, but don't want to miss out on any of the group activities. Will you provide the group excursions? Great question. So the answer is yes to a lot of those questions. So when you do a Royal Caribbean blog group cruise, we do 2 a year, by the way, if you're unfamiliar with them. These are regular Royal Caribbean cruises, in which I invite all of you to come join us for it. We have one coming up this November with Legend of the Seas over Thanksgiving. And then we have a cruise in April on Mariner of the Seas out of New Orleans. And our first celebrity group cruise ever in July over to Iceland, which will be really neat. For all of our group cruises, the way that it works, Pat and Sherry, is that we don't always have a hotel together. Like, we used to do that back in the day. We'd get group space at a hotel. The problem is hotels are really a pain in the butt with this. And if we don't fill up all the group space, we're on the hook for it. So what ends up happening is most people just end up booking hotels like eventually there'll be a Facebook group and a group chat through the app called GroupMe. And people start organizing and figuring out, okay, we're all kind of staying around this whole area. But basically everybody comes in at least a day ahead of time because we all do that, our due diligence there. Plus it's New Orleans. I think a lot of people want to explore there. Usually the night before the cruise, we pick a hotel lobby to hang out in and just kind of have a drink and, say hello. And then, yes, we do have activities on board the ship. Part of the problem is I'd love to get it earlier to you, but unfortunately Royal Caribbean takes a sweet time actually allocating private venues for us. So the scheduled events won't come out until a little bit later in the much closer to the sail date. However, as it pertains to dinner, you're safe. I never or rarely ever plan any events between the hours of certainly 5 o'clock to maybe 7 or so. If you have a late dinner, that could be an issue, but we usually do most of our activities in the daytime. So I think you'll be okay there. But we do sometimes either like we might do a group excursion, like where we say, hey, if you booked with the group, you're our guest. Sometimes we do, hey, we're all going to go here. If you'd like to join us for it, join us for it. So my best advice to you is just, make your plans, do your pre-planning, but also make sure that all your plans are refundable. So that way you can, cancel and rebook if necessary. But unfortunately, it's the nature of the beast. Not that I don't want to give you that information earlier, but number one, we got to wait till final payment date to figure out who's actually coming. And then number two, we got to work with the cruise line to figure out which venues we can go to in order to enjoy. Because we like to, take over certain venues and have special events and activities just for our group. So look for more information from your travel agent as we get closer, probably in that February-March time frame over there, Pat and Sherry. Thank you for the email. Thank you to everybody for checking out this episode of the Royal Caribbean Blog Podcast. Of course, you can always email me your questions by emailing them to Matt, M-A-T-T, at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, Matt at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. Until next time, I'm Matt. We'll talk again real soon.